right, everyone, get ready, because today we are going to be diving deep into the world of dog food.
Woof, woof.
You know, it's one of those things we do every single day for our dogs.
Right.
We feed them, but we don't really always think that much about it.
Yeah.
We're using this great guide from Pawsportal.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Ultimate Guide to Choosing the Best Dog Food. And they get into so much really interesting stuff.
Absolutely.
So first of all, like, what makes dog food good?
Well, I think that's an important question to ask because, we think about what's good for us. We're careful about what we eat.
Yeah.
And our dogs deserve the same kind of attention to detail.
Right.
And so, AAFCO is a really important organization when it comes to dog food.
Oh, yeah, they keep bringing up these AAFCO standards.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean?
So AAFCO stands for the Association of American Feed Control Officials.
Okay.
And they're basically the ones who set the standards for pet food. And they actually conduct feeding trials where they take dogs and they feed them a specific food for a certain amount of time.
Wow.
And they monitor their health.
Really?
We do blood work to make sure that this food is actually providing complete and balanced nutrition.
So it's not just about checking boxes on a label. It's really like they're putting the food to the test.
Exactly. They're making sure that the food is actually doing what it says it's going to do.
That's pretty reassuring.
I know, right?
Because, you see all these different claims and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about ingredients? Like, what should we be looking for in the ingredient list?
Well, I think Pawsportal makes a good point about focusing on real meat.
Okay.
Especially as one of the first few ingredients listed on the label.
Right.
Because that means it's a primary component of the food.
Okay, real meat first.
Real meat first.
Got it.
But then we get into these mysterious byproducts.
Oh, yeah. What are those all about? Are they all bad?
It's so tricky because some byproducts can actually be quite nutritious.
Really?
Like organ meats, for example.
Like liver and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
So, liver, kidney, heart, those are actually really nutrient dense.
Okay.
But the problem is a lot of times we don't know what kind of byproducts they're using.
Oh, it's just vague.
It's just like meat byproducts.
Right.
So we don't know if it's coming from a high quality source or if it's just, kind of like the scraps.
Like the stuff they couldn't use for anything else.
Exactly. So that's where the lack of transparency can be a bit of a concern.
Yeah. So it's all about transparency, basically.
Yeah, transparency is key.
Like, what are you putting in this food?
Tell me what's in there.
Let me know.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about the different types of dog food. Because
oh my gosh.
There's so many.
I know there are so many options.
There's kibble. There's canned food.
There's raw food.
There's raw food.
There's homemade food.
Like, how do we even choose?
Well, it can feel really overwhelming. So let's kind of break down the pros and cons of these.
Okay, let's do it.
So let's start with kibble, because that seems to be the most popular.
Yeah, I feel like kibble is like the default.
It's what we see everywhere.
Like, that's the first thing you see in the pet store.
And for good reason.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, it's convenient.
Okay.
It's shelf stable.
Right.
It's generally more affordable than some of the other options.
Okay.
And that crunchy texture can actually help with dental health.
So it's like a little bit of a teeth cleaning every time they eat.
A little bit of a built-in toothbrush.
I like that.
Right.
But so is there anything is kibble always the best choice?
Well, it really depends on the dog.
Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind is that kibble tends to be lower in moisture content.
Oh, okay.
So you just want to make sure your dog's drinking enough water.
You have to supplement with a lot of water.
Yeah. You definitely want to encourage that water intake.
Okay, good tip.
But, if your dog's a good drinker and they like kibble,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a great option.
Yeah, especially if you're busy,
Exactly.
and just need something easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about wet food? Because
I
I feel like my dog goes crazy for wet food.
know, they love it.
It's like a special treat almost.
Well, it has that higher moisture content, which can be really good,
Okay.
especially for dogs who don't drink enough water.
Picky drinkers.
Yeah, exactly. Picky drinkers.
Yeah.
And yeah, it often comes in a wider variety of flavors and textures too.
Yeah, I feel like there's stews and pâtés and
All sorts of things.
chunks and gravy. It's like a whole gourmet meal.
It is a gourmet meal for your pup.
Right.
But yeah, it can be a little bit more expensive than kibble.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't have that same kind of dental benefit.
Right. It's not crunching.
It's not as crunchy.
Okay, so wet food good for hydration.
Yes.
Maybe picky eaters.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Maybe not the best for teeth,
Got it.
but, a good option.
So Pawsportal talks about raw food diets too.
Yeah.
And And I know that this is kind of a controversial topic.
It can be.
What's the deal with raw food?
So raw diets basically try to mimic what a dog's ancestors would have eaten in the wild.
Okay, so like a more natural diet.
A more natural diet.
Right.
And it typically consists of like raw meat, bones, organs.
Really?
Things
Yeah,
like
you were like prepping little raw meals
Yeah,
for your dog.
exactly.
Wow, that's commitment.
It is a commitment.
And so are there benefits to that?
Well, proponents of raw feeding say that it can provide a more natural and bioavailable form of nutrition,
Okay.
and that it can be good for their skin, their coat,
Yeah.
their digestion.
Okay.
But there are some downsides too.
Okay. Like what?
It can be expensive.
Yeah.
It can be time-consuming.
Definitely more than scooping kibble.
It is.
And it requires a lot of research
Okay.
to make sure that you're meeting all of your dog's nutritional needs safely. Because I imagine there's a risk of foodborne illness and stuff like that.
You have to be really careful
You have to be very careful.
about handling the food properly,
Yeah.
storing it properly,
Right.
making sure it's balanced.
So it's not for the faint of heart.
No,
It's raw feeding.
it's not.
So what about homemade diets? Because I know
Yeah.
a lot of people are into making their dog's food from scratch.
Right.
Is that a good idea?
It can be,
Okay.
but it's definitely not as simple as just throwing some leftovers in a bowl.
Right.
You have to be really careful about making sure that you're meeting all of your dog's nutritional requirements.
I imagine you'd have to do a lot of research.
You would?
Like, are they getting enough protein and all the
No.
vitamins and minerals?
Vitamins, minerals,
Yeah.
fatty acids, all of that.
Like, I don't even know all that stuff.
Right, and that's where working with a veterinary nutritionist can be really helpful.
Okay. So maybe leave it to the pros.
Yeah, unless you're really
Unless you're really dedicated
dedicated.
to spending hours
Yes.
in the kitchen.
It's a labor of love.
It is.
For sure.
So it's not just about what kind of food we're feeding them, right?
Right.
Pawsportal talks about our individual dog's needs.
Absolutely.
So things like breed size, age.
Activity level,
Yeah.
any health concerns they might have.
So it's really personalized.
It is. It's about tailoring the diet to the individual dog.
For example, if you have a large breed dog,
Mhm.
like a Great Dane or something,
Yeah.
like what would their needs be?
So large breed dogs can often benefit from formulas that support joint health
Oh, okay.
because they're prone to things like hip dysplasia
Okay.
and arthritis.
So their joints are under a lot of stress
Exactly.
just from being so big.
Ingredients like glucosamine and chondroitin can be really helpful
Okay, yeah, I've heard of those.
for supporting joint health.
So it's like giving their joints a little extra cushion
Exactly.
to handle all that weight. What about allergies? Because I know a lot of dogs
yeah.
have allergies.
Food allergies are so common,
Yeah.
and they can manifest in all sorts of ways.
Really? Like, what are some of the signs?
Well, you might see itchy skin,
Okay.
ear infections,
Mm.
digestive upset.
So it could be a lot of different things.
It could be a lot of different things.
Wow.
So if you suspect that your dog has a food allergy, you definitely want to talk to your vet.
Okay.
They can help you pinpoint the culprit.
Through like testing or...
Yeah, they might do an elimination diet
Oh.
where they basically feed your dog a very limited diet
Mm-hmm.
and then slowly introduce different
That's
ingredients.
to see what causes a reaction.
Exactly.
So once you know what the allergy is, you just avoid it.
Pretty much, yeah. You want to look for foods that don't contain that specific ingredient.
All right.
And that's where these novel proteins come in.
Oh, yeah. Pawsportal mentioned that.
Yes.
What are those?
So novel proteins are basically protein sources that your dog hasn't been exposed to before.
So it's like something totally new.
Totally new. So some examples are things like venison,
Okay.
rabbit.
Kangaroo. Wow, that's pretty exotic.
It is.
So they're less likely to be allergic to it.
Right, because they haven't built up a sensitivity to it yet.
That's a really good strategy.
Yeah.
So limited ingredient diets? I've heard of those too.
Yeah. LIDs.
What are those all about?
So limited ingredient diets are basically, as the name suggests,
Mhm.
they contain a limited number of ingredients.
Okay.
And they're great for dogs with allergies
Okay.
because it makes it easier to pinpoint
Yeah.
and avoid potential triggers.
Less ingredients, less chance of a reaction.
Exactly.
Oh.
And they can also be good for dogs with sensitive stomachs.
Yeah.
Because it's just easier for them to digest.
Makes sense.
Uh-huh.
All right. So we've talked about like the basics of dog food
Mm-hmm.
and the different types and the different needs.
Mm.
But how do we actually decipher those dog food labels?
Well, that's a whole other deep dive.
I know it feels like a whole other language sometimes.
It does.
I'm looking at this bag of food right now and I'm like,
I don't even know what half these words mean.
I know, right?
But don't worry, we're going to break it all down for you.
All right, we're going to become like dog food label detectives.
That's right. We're going to put on our detective hats. And we're going to figure this out.
Let's do it. All right, so we're back and ready to tackle these dog food labels.
Okay, let's do it.
They can be so confusing.
I know, it's like a whole other language.
Where do we even begin?
Well, I think Pawsportal gives us a really good starting point.
Okay.
Remember those first few ingredients? Lifted.
Yeah.
Those are the most important.
Okay, so we really got to pay attention to that top 5 or whatever it is.
Exactly, because those make up the bulk of the food.
All right, so what are we looking for in those top ingredients?
Well, we want to see things like real meat,
Okay.
healthy fats, whole grains.
So basically good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Things that we would eat ourselves.
Exact.
All right, so that's what we want to see. What about things we don't want to see?
Yeah, let's talk about the red flags.
The warning signs.
Exactly.
Okay.
So artificial preservatives are a big one.
Okay, what are those?
So these are things like BHT ethoxyquin,
Okay.
and they're added to extend the shelf life of the food.
Okay.
But there are some concerns about potential long-term health risks.
So it's like they're putting chemicals in there to make it last longer, but it might not be the best for our dogs.
Exactly.
Okay, so artificial preservatives are a no-go.
Avoid those if you can.
What about fillers? Because I hear that word a lot.
Fillers. Oh, yeah.
What are those all about?
So fillers are basically ingredients that are added to bulk up the food cheaply,
Okay.
but they don't provide a lot of nutritional value.
So it's like empty calories.
Calories. And some common fillers are things like corn, wheat, soy.
So like a lot of grain-based stuff?
Yeah, and, they can actually contribute to weight gain.
Oh, really?
Digestive issues.
So not only are they not giving them nutrients, they could actually be causing problems.
Right. It's like feeding them junk food.
Okay, so fillers are out.
Out.
Artificial preservatives are out.
Out.
What about those byproducts we talked about before?
The mysterious byproducts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's always best to be cautious with byproducts.
Okay.
Because, like we said, some can be nutritious, but others might not be.
Right. It depends on the source.
Exactly.
And if they don't tell us the source, then
we don't know.
We don't know.
So it's best to just err on the side of caution.
Okay, so transparency is key.
Transparency is key.
We got to know what's going into our dog's food.
Absolutely.
So beyond those like basic ingredients, Pawsportal also talks about specific needs that dogs have throughout their lives.
Right.
So it's not just about breed and size.
No, it's not one size fits all.
Right.
Age is a big factor.
Okay.
Puppies have different needs than adult dogs. Yeah.
And senior dogs have different needs.
So what should we be looking for in puppy food, for example?
So puppies need a lot of calories and protein.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. They're growing so fast.
You're growing like weeds.
Yeah.
So you want to look for foods that are specifically formulated for puppies.
Okay.
And they often have things like DHA.
What's DHA?
DHA is a type of omega-3 fatty acid
Okay.
that's really important for brain development.
So it helps their little brains grow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they also need calcium
Okay.
for strong bones.
Right, because they're developing their bones.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So yeah, look for foods that say puppy on them.
Puppy food.
Puppy food.
All right, what about our senior dogs?
Senior dogs.
Yeah, because they're not puppies anymore.
No, they're not.
They're slowing down a bit.
Right.
So what do they need?
So senior dogs often need fewer calories
Okay.
because they're not as active.
They're not running around as much?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they might have some age-related health concerns. Okay, like what kind of things?
So things like joint issues,
Okay.
cognitive decline.
Oh, so we need to support their brains as they get older.
Yes.
Okay.
So there are foods that are specifically formulated for senior dogs,
Okay.
and they often have ingredients that support joint health,
Okay.
cognitive function.
All right. So it's really about like tailoring the food to whatever life stage they're in.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like us, as we age, our nutritional needs change.
Right.
And it's the same for our dogs.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. So we talked about novel proteins
Yes.
for allergies before.
Right.
And I know that finding those can be a little tricky.
It can be.
Like you're looking at all these bags of food
Yeah.
and they all have chicken and beef.
And you're like, where's the venison?
Right. There's the kangaroo.
Where's the rabbit?
Right.
So Pawsportal actually gives us a list of some brands that feature these novel proteins.
Oh, that's so helpful.
Isn't that great?
It takes out the guesswork.
I know, it's so nice to have those resources.
Yeah.
So if your dog has allergies, definitely check out that list.
Okay, cool. So even with all this information, it can still be overwhelming.
It can.
There's so many brands out there.
I know.
So many different formulas.
Right.
How do we make a choice?
Well, I think the best thing you can do is talk to your vet.
Right.
They know your dog's individual health history.
Yeah.
They can make personalized recommendations.
So they're like the ultimate dog food guru.
They are.
Okay, so talk to your vet.
Yes.
But if we're doing our own research,
Mm-hmm.
are there any tips for comparing different brands?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you want to compare labels side by side.
Okay.
Pay close attention to those first few
All
ingredients.
right, we talked about that.
Right.
Real meat first.
Real meat first.
Okay.
Look at the guaranteed analysis.
What's that?
So that's the section on the label that tells you the minimum percentages of protein, fat, fiber.
Okay.
So you can kind of get a sense of the overall nutritional profile.
Okay, so it's like comparing nutrition facts.
Right.
And also, don't be afraid to reach out to the company.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you have questions about their ingredients, their sourcing practices,
That's a good tip.
yeah, be an informed consumer.
Right.
Ask questions.
And I guess beyond the label, we have to think about our dog's preferences too, right?
Absolutely.
Like, are they actually going to eat this food?
Exactly. What good is a healthy food if your dog won't touch it?
Right.
So, think about, do they prefer kibble?
Mm.
Do they prefer wet food?
Yeah.
Are there certain flavors they like, certain textures they like?
It's all about making them happy
It is.
at the end of the day.
And healthy.
And healthy. Yes.
Oh, it's a balance.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
And I guess monitoring their response to the food is important too, right?
Absolutely.
Like if you switch their food and they're
Yeah.
suddenly having digestive issues.
Right.
Or their coat's not looking as good.
Or they're having allergic reactions.
Yeah.
Those are all signs that maybe the food's not agreeing with them, right?
So you might need to try something different.
So it's really a process.
It's not just a one-time decision.
Oh, yeah.
It's an ongoing journey.
We're always learning about our dogs.
And about dog food.
And about dog food.
It's a fascinating world.
It is.
So this has been great.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot more confident
Good.
about choosing dog food.
I'm glad to hear that.
We've covered so much.
We have
We've talked about ingredients and types of food.
AAFCO,
Yeah,
personalized needs.
all that good stuff.
It's been a good deep dive.
It has.
So are you ready to wrap things up?
Let's do it.
Oh,
Wow. It's really amazing how much there is to think about when it comes to dog food.
I know, right?
It's not just about filling their bowls.
No, it's about really nourishing them.
Yeah, and giving them what they need to thrive.
Exactly.
We've talked a lot about like the physical health benefits,
Mm-hmm.
but what about the mental and emotional side of things?
Oh, that's a great point.
Like, does food play a role in that too?
It actually does.
Really?
There's a growing body of research that's highlighting the connection between gut health and brain health.
So like what we feed them can affect their mood,
Yes.
their behavior?
Their cognitive function.
Wow.
It's fascinating.
So a healthy gut
Hmm.
equals a healthy mind,
That's the idea.
even for dogs.
Even for dogs.
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
So we're not just giving them physical nourishment.
Right.
We're also supporting their mental and emotional well-being.
Exactly.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really realize.
Yeah.
They think about food as just fuel,
Right.
but it's so much more than that.
It really is. It's information for the body.
Yeah, and it's like we're setting them up for success
Absolutely.
by making smart choices about their food.
You're giving them the best possible chance to live a long and healthy and happy life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good takeaway
Yeah.
from this deep dive.
I agree.
We've learned so much about ingredients, about different types of food.
AAFCO standards.
Yes, the importance of personalized care.
Talking to our vets.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
It's a whole holistic approach
Yeah.
to dog nutrition.
Yes.
So as we wrap things up,
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
Okay, I'm ready.
Think about one small change you can make to your dog's diet today.
That's a great challenge.
Yeah, could be something as simple as checking the label for artificial preservative.
Right.
Or switching to a brand that's more transparent about their sourcing.
Ah,
Or maybe it's scheduling a chat with your vet
great idea.
to talk about your dog's specific needs.
Yeah,
Whatever it may be, I think even a small step can make a big difference.
absolutely.
So let's all make a commitment to giving our dogs the best possible nutrition.
I'm in.
Me too. I know they deserve it.
They do.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive.
Yeah, that's.
I've learned so much,
Me too.
and I hope our listeners have too.
I hope so.
To all our furry friends out there,
Cheers.
may your bowls be filled with delicious and nutritious food.
Absolutely.
And until next time, happy deep diving.
Bye, everyone.